but hello everyone while I'm here and talking to the air, or probably people who are kind of quick. But yeah, it looks promising, it sounds like it works. That's good. So, I guess this means we could be starting the stream. And I'm a little worried because I left off at what looks to me like it will be a boss fight coming up. And yeah, a cauldron boss fight, but still. So let's see that we're all filled up. All dressed up with enough place to go. Pocket full of gravel bills. Such a nice puzzle here. Maybe I should just salvage a few things and see. It's probably a good start. Happy little dino dents. Thank you, Mel. How's it going? I hear the cool thunderstorm left you again, and it's warm now. It actually looks pretty nice here, slightly windy. Really get as windy as I would like here, but just a little bit. And a host, it's appreciated. Or I think the British pronunciation would be appreciated, which is about the opposite of what I learned at school, but apparently totes correct. Let's see, how are we on health? Oh, not many health potions. And I think we can't craft anything, because we don't have the parts. Yeah, we haven't been able to hunt anything. You turned into a high pressure day, enough to give you a nosebleed, so you want another storm. Yeah, that sounds bad. Yeah, I don't know. I hope I'm not sounding too weird today, because I have a slight bit of pressure on my ears myself. I don't think it's weather related. I might just have like a slight, I don't know, like ear. I hope it's not a full-on infection, but like a little inflammation or something. So I'm actually having a slight bit of noise in my ear, and everything sounds like a little tinny. Yeah. I sound like I have a little cold. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I guess since we can't fill up on health potions, wait, do we have anything in the? Just to be prepared as much as we can. So we still have a bunch of treasure boxes, so let's try. Idiot. Don't drop stuff when you don't mean to. Okay, I'll just quickly open the treasure boxes. As much as I can. Should just use more shock traps and rocks, it seems, because these boxes have been here forever. Okay. Oh, do I have anything? Oh, I think the spear already has the best we have. Okay. Guess do we have any that have? Okay, so I guess that's it. I should probably just use metal burn, chill water, ridgewood. No, let's just leave it at that. I don't want to do too much inventory management right now. But I guess the idea is that we walk down there.
Keep moving towards the core. Uh-oh. Whatever Cyan did, I don't think Hephaestus is happy about it.
Nope. Oh, okay. Here and try this again, I suppose. Don't think there is much of another way. I think I'm supposed to go there. Ah, that worked. Just getting a little bit of a running start. And blaze. Feels so bad when there's like health potions in there and you go like, I know I'll need it in 5 minutes, but I'm on max capacity and I can't make any more full health potions. An invisible wall here or something. So that's despite the light not the way I'm supposed to go. Okay, I guess they're leaving me a little quiz first to figure out how to get over there. So let's see. It looks like one could go up there. It just seems to be blocked by an invisible wall. See any other path. Maybe over there. Two paths that look like I can't take them, but none that look like I can. That's not fun. I don't think I can walk through the lava. It doesn't really sound like the thing worth trying in this game. It makes me a little suspicious that there are resources over there. That's usually kind of the indicator. Well, we're giving you something for No, but no, in this game they often don't give you anything when you're running into a dead end, so I guess that's not it. Okay, let's try getting back over there and see if we can in any way go up there. And I don't think I see any climby bits. This is weird. At least it gives me a little time to start up my brain before the boss fight, I hope. Like I should be able to walk along here. There are so many invisible walls. Here. I was up there. But it just won't let me get on this one, which I would need to get up. I think if I run across and try to jump on that ledge over there, I'll probably just fall into the fire. But I guess lacking any other options. Oh, there seems to be a tunnel down there. Okay, now I've gotcha. That's a bit of a bad, you know, don't make scenery that looks like you can walk there and then just use invisible walls.
Okay, Cyan said something about restraints. Is that what the tower is for?
Oh no. So of course they won't let me use my armor. So let's see, what is our best outfit? Provides health recovery over time. Maybe I should try this because it seems to be the closest to that armor that I have, but then I'll need to find resist ranged attacks. 25 resist fire. And ranged. Resist shock and resist freeze a little bit. What else do I have? They're all fairly low. Let's see what the things that I have. Freeze and corruption. Resist fire. Resist shock, fire, freeze. So I guess I'll hop up all of those for now and put them in this one. The ones I can. Where is it? Resist freeze, resist corruption. Okay, fire will be likely to encounter, because most of our enemies do fire. 29 freeze and corruption, or this one shock, fire, freeze. That actually sounds a lot more useful. Okay, let's try this outfit then. Okay, so I guess I'll have to turn off that tower. Is there anyone nearby?
I either need to destroy this thing or overload it.
Okay. Maybe do a quick trip to those resources over there. So we're at least filled up when it starts getting serious. They give you like a slight vibration in the controller whenever those waves hit, which on one hand is good for gameplay because you know you've just been hit, and you know like your enemies are stronger now and things like that. But on the other hand, it also annoys me a bit, which is just the right thing you want for this. Oh, there's another one. Let's get that box before we do anything more. Just all we can carry. Left a lot of resources here, which is not a good sign. Or rather, I mean, it's kind of expected, I suppose. Okay. Here goes nothing.
That Cyan warned us about. This won't be easy.
We can't let it stop us.
Take it down!
I must push forward.
Whoops. No, we could do that. busy just staying alive, and I can't do any damage right now. Jump at me backwards? This is not a swimming pool. Really should find an opportunity. Switch. Can I? Okay, I guess I can switch to the menu without dying. Okay, so inventory, weapons. Where is this ice thing? Ice rail. Here. Swap it in here. And now look at the ammo. Where is the ice rail? Ice thrower. Oh, that should be in crafting, I guess. Forge fire. Ice rail. Okay.
Won't give up!
Let's see. Come on, shoot. Why doesn't it shoot? Great, now I have a weapon that I don't know how to shoot. Should probably have done the tutorials after all. Seems to have some sort of charge up, but I don't see how it works. And I'm already out of ammo. Okay, this weapon is not working at all. Let's go away. apart from you, no, don't let it kill you. And of course the vulnerable point is right in the front. And it has eyes in the back apparently. It seems to be like I have two choices right now. Which is...
Stop it from repairing the beast!
What? Oh. That as well. So how am I even supposed to manage that? Somehow attract the beast to another location and then run away if I can survive long enough to trigger this. But I can't. Okay, this is basically impossible and I don't know why. Ah, God. I have no idea. And I'm quickly running out of health packs. Taking too long. I can't.
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
Yeah, how? Fucking how? Tell me to deal with the tower. Go ahead. Now, why am I suddenly so...
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
Is there like another point back? Just gonna have to die here. Feels like they're not distracting it enough. And I'm not fast enough, so
Quickly!
how am I gonna do this? Anyone tell me here. I'm like 1/3 through and it's got me. So let's go over there.
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
Come on. Come on, come here. Strategy I had. Probably just, yeah, interrupt me again. I don't know how to do this. Out of health.
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
Can't. Period. I can't. Oh great, I'm always wrong.
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
Oh, it's standing in front of the tower at least. So maybe that helps me.
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
It's repaired? Give me a break.
Come on. Come here. Well, at least it's stuck at the tower now, so maybe I finally have a chance of surviving. I don't think this was what they intended me to do, but if I can't get the tower, then maybe I can...
With maneuver!
and
Nice trick that tower's got.
problem is as soon as I get close enough, it will interrupt me.
Deal with the tower! Quickly!
Whoa! How did that work? I guess it helps if it's stuck. Looks like I have no choice but just stand in the middle of the fire because that's the only way. Oh great, yeah, and I can't avoid this either apparently. Now I'm slowly running out of health. Let's see if I get enough health to at least. If I'm missing something, if it has like obvious vulnerability phases that I just didn't have the time to figure out or something. But I mean, how would you in the amount of time they gave you? Like all the actions it has have signals, but by the time the controller reacts, it seems to be it's mainly after me because I'm the player and here makes it a little harder, but it just gets me anyway. At least I managed to collect some health now.
Repair the machine!
They have another tower, really? Maybe works. Like sneaking in the middle of combat sounds like a thing that shouldn't be possible, but okay, now let's just do this manually then and see if that works. At least I'm doing some damage. I'm not low, but on into this thing, yes. It's just, you know, it turns so, like it turns on a dime It's really... What I had to do, and I'm all out of health now. If they give me a second boss fight now, so God help me.
The tower. What must be done with it?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm collecting everything I can now. That was a trap that obviously was in the perfect location. Else do we have here? But I don't know, like, that's the all-seeing eye. It always annoys me when the monsters can turn so much faster than you can. Yeah, I mean, it's oh, hi Farmer Boy John, sorry I missed you in all the boss battliness. Welcome to the stream. Hello. Yeah,
whatever you're going to do to that tower, do it now.
Impatient young Padawan. Not gonna do anything with that tower until I've looted everything inside, of course. You should know me that well now. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know if any of you like saw any obvious mechanisms or something that I overlooked. Or, you know, like hints, because like as I said, I'm fairly new at like the, what would you say, like Metroidvania school of boss fights. Like I have no boss fight training because I only started gaming a couple of years ago, really, or playing games rather. Gaming sounds like a job. That isn't what it is for me.
The tower. Perhaps it must be
Shut
destroyed.
up, Aratak. It's like this eternal hint giving is really like especially in this expansion. Like in the others there were occasional moments, but here it's like if they see, you know, like there's a bunch of loot items out, you know, they could at least, you know, reduce the frequency at which they show hints. Okay, so let's craft any ammo. I really have to figure out how this ice blower thing works. Because I'm pretty sure they intended me to use that and not my arrows. Which, you know, maybe it had a bonus on, you know, like boss damage or something, or there's these, to me, slightly weird mechanisms, you know, where they just make a weapon and unless you use that one weapon, the boss just won't react. And so, maybe it's something like that, but the problem is I couldn't get... Let's give it a try. So how is this supposed to work? So it charges up, then nothing happens. Oh, okay. So I guess that was my problem. That is that it's way too slow and it... Well, this one sort of works. But has way too little ammo. Okay. So this is, I guess the idea behind this is that it's supposed to kind of be a heavy weapon. Almost. Also, do I have anything left here? Oh, back in the tunnel we had a bunch of things that we couldn't pick up at the time. Great. Why is there suddenly lava in my tunnel? if they make me do the boss fight again, I'm gonna be, well, disappointed.
Science said something about restraints. Is that what time is for?
Okay. I guess I lost all my loot. And all the parts from the boss fight. Aww. That's cruel and unusual punishment. But I guess those boxes are now... No, seems like they still contain the same leftover stuff. But of course all the big animals are gone. That's not nice. You know, like as a human, you know, like you would have had heat to tell you not to go down there. I guess you could argue, you know, oh, the heat is all the same everywhere. So she didn't notice it getting hotter down there.
Spoke of the tower. What must be done with it?
Okay. Anything else I can collect? This seems all collected already. So I guess that's it. So nice, I was full on health and had collected a lot of stuff, and now I think like they give you the mods or something that you picked up usually, but I don't know. I don't really see if there's any obvious mods here. Well, I guess then let's just do this.
Critical threat detected. Autonomous defenses inoperative.
Aloy!
No! Hardware network.
That's not good.
Maria! Don't!
No.
Scion, please help me!
That's not good.
Restraints destroyed. Core access attained.
Yay.
I am initiating a chain reaction that will destroy the compromised elements of this facility. In order to maintain Caldera stabilization, I must now transfer my command functions to the auxiliary data center. Aurea, I'm free. You must escape.
My sister!
No, please, just... Aw.
This entire place is gonna go. Aratak. Aratak! Aratak. Survive. Prevail. You are Banuk. What else matters? Artok. She wouldn't have wanted you to die here. Let's go.
Those?
It's the only way!
They didn't make me run out. I was expecting a scene like in Mass Effect Andromeda when you run out of the first, what's the name again? There, cauldron-like looking things. Whoa! That's strong. Okay, I guess they'll make me do something after all now. Oh, they just dropped down there.
Get me up top, Aratak! Now! I need explosive ammo! A bomb! Quick!
It's damaged.
Great Manukai!
That might not have been the smartest solution. Making angels in the snow.
Araya is gone. What of Cyan?
She said she was transferring herself to the auxiliary center. I think she meant Araya's retreat at the end of the Shaman's Path.
Then I will meet you there for the last verse of my sister's song.
Oh, I guess this is all cutscene now. I thought they'd like... Oh, okay, no. Okay, yeah, so they're giving me a chance to go back and you know, do any side missions, I
Do that up
suppose.
later.
Well, it's a kilometer, so let's see, do we have anything? Stormslinger, map, blue gleam, rope caster, ammo, hunting for the lodge, no. Okay, so we don't really have any side quests left. Oh, but we have a health plant up there, finally. So I guess we'll quick travel a little and skip that. Oh wait, what's this? Oh, that's the hunting grounds, okay. No, we don't really want to go to the hunting grounds today. So let's just see what this does. But I guess this was the final boss fight of this level, so I guess it makes sense that it would have been more difficult. You know, it would be... Like, I've heard that there were... they hired 2 American writers to actually do the story. People who had worked on... what was it? I think one of them had worked on BioShock and the other on... I don't remember, but they were like people who had already written for really big games. And so, you can tell that there are some elements in this story that feel a little more European, because this is a Dutch studio that actually did that. But you can also tell that, you know, like, I also don't quite expect as many, you know, like, shocking moments. So, something that I expect them not to do here, which they could, would be that now we go there and we find out that, you know, Cyan is actually buggy or whatever, and whatever the daemon did was actually, well, that was, you know, like, supposed to be a protective function that also kind of went bad, but maybe that, you know, maybe we freed the wrong AI. You know, and just because, you know, it sounded like a friendly female or an angry male doesn't mean it's a good or a bad AI. It's just an AI with a voice chip. So, but I don't think they're gonna do that here. It's not that kind of game. Or rather, I don't think that's the sensibilities of the writers. Which, you know, like, to be fair, if you had just played through an entire expansion just to find out, well, you helped the wrong guy, there was no way for you to know beforehand, and now you're screwed, that would be a very dissatisfying ending. So I kind of understand that, you know, they're not doing that even if they thought about it. But you know, just an element of that would be nice. But you know, that's, you can kind of tell, you know, like, how long a story is. Like, but this is the advantage of this computer game. With computer games, how long it takes you to do a certain story, and, you know, how much story there is not really something you can tell well beforehand. Like, you might know, well, there's these 3 scenes in the trailer and I haven't seen one yet, and it's a big set piece, so there will probably be another, you know, third of the game that I'll still have to do. But you can usually kind of guess from, like, the economy of plot, as it is called, like, how much time they spent on something, whether there will be a lot after it or not. But, like, with an expansion, it's not that easy, because, you know, it could be a smaller or a larger expansion. And so, like, with the main game, you kind of can tell, okay, now we must be nearing the end. And also, I think they have a statistics page where you see what you've done. Here, statistics, so you can kind of tell, like, how far in are you. And, oh, I've just exceeded 100 hours today. Woo! But I don't think it gives us a percentage game finished. Oh, here, Frozen Wilds and game progression. It's just 1 up, right? I really would like to know what these unknown are. Like, I didn't get those in game progression either. Bye. Have fun in your short meeting. Usually you need fun in meetings. So anyway, but even so, they say 74%. So that's like 3/4. Oh, that's game progression. Okay. Oh, and here it actually says 55%. So the question is, did I just ignore enough side quests? Or is there a whole bunch of new stuff now coming? Okay. This is interesting. Maybe I did them wrong.
All of my interactions with Aurea were recorded and stored in my memory. I'd be happy to play any of them for you, but there was one in particular I thought you would want to see first. I captured it 4 years ago, just after I told her that I could no longer defend myself against the daemon's attacks.
I will speak of this to my brother. Aratak is strong. At the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, he took 3 Karja arrows and still came back to camp carrying a wounded scout. Never was I so happy to see him. Or so proud. So you see, if anything can be done to defend you, he will give it all he has.
Aloy's here. That's enough for now.
We can resume any time you like, Aratak, if you want to hear her voice again. Come closer, Aloy. We have much to discuss.
Alright. Talk to Aratak is optional, so of course we'll talk to Aratak first. Because 2 has the check mark, which apparently is supposed to mean that ends the story. He really must have run outside.
Think of summer sun. Breeze through the trees.
All the fields.
My chieftain,
Just... Aloy.
as you wish.
I wondered if you thought... that if I'd never come along, Aurea might still...
If you'd never come along, I would have marched my kin to our deaths. Aurea would be alone, and the spirit she sacrificed so much for would be lost. Either way, I would not have been able to protect her.
You didn't let her down. You helped her do what she wanted. To find her destiny.
If that's destiny, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
I should have gone with the fight.
But she was ready to face it.
Only in the struggle against death do we find, even for a moment, the spark of life. Truly, Aurea found the spark. I'm proud of her. Though I grieve for her passing, at last I truly know who she was, and why the spirit was so important. For so long she told me, if only you could have heard it, brother. Now I understand. There's something else, isn't there?
I can't stay here, Aratak. And where I'm going, the Warak can't follow. Besides, it already had a chieftain before me. A strong one, I think.
A wiser one. for the path we shared. The daemon is gone, but there's much to be done.
You mean the new units that Cyan said escaped the cauldron?
Yes, fire claws. Now Tuke has been tracking them from Song's Edge.
I could help with those.
I have no doubt. You're practically Banuk.
Time to talk to Cyan. Should be interesting.
Wherever he went. I buy our attack. It's a pity that we don't get to see Urea any longer. I really loved the character. Like, I mean, all the characters in this game are pretty much good, but you know, you just saw Urea there and thought like, okay, this is someone I can get behind. Okay, let's see what conversation we're having here.
Hello, Aloy. I have been reviewing the events at the Firebreak main facility. Because of your efforts, and of course, Urea's, I am no longer controlled by Hephaestus. I feel profound grief over Urea's death. I thought I was familiar with the emotion, but this is something new.
Cyan, I don't know what to say.
It is unlikely that any specific consolation would suffice, Aloy. But I find your presence reassuring. You are different from the Banuk. You have technological aptitude and a functioning focus. We can communicate on a much more comprehensive level. Perhaps even like colleagues.
Alright, question time. Let's see what we can do.
So are you an artificial intelligence, Cyan? A thinking machine?
Yes, I am an algorithmic monitoring entity, capable of rational decision-making and limited emotional response.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But your emotions don't seem limited to me. You cared about Urea, didn't you?
Yes. Before she came to this facility, I had been conscious for centuries, in solitude. I focused on my work. In off-cycles, I used coping mechanisms. I solved many Gaussian integer problems. But I was alone. It was Urea who renewed me, repaired me. She saved me.
This Firebreak project, it was to stop a huge volcanic eruption?
Yes. I can report the project was a success, and the risk was countered.
But it's been a long time, Cyan. And we blew up the cauldron. It took most of the old facility with it.
I have been active for centuries, Aloy. I was lonely, but not lax in my duties. I optimized the project, reducing energy draw and spreading the load across backup systems. Despite the destruction of the compromised elements of the main facility, I predict caldera stability for at least another 3,337 years.
So we've got a little time.
Yes. If only my former colleagues could appreciate the progress I have made.
Do you know what happened to your colleagues, Cyan?
No. I received an unexpected visit from Director Chow, years after his tenure ended. He explained that I would need to be suspended for an indefinite period of time. It was a very emotional conversation. There were no further communications. Eventually, I surmised my colleagues were deceased. I will transmit a recording of my last interaction with Director Chow to your focus.
Was the daemon, Hephaestus, destroyed along with the cauldron?
Unfortunately, no. To be precise, It was never there to begin with.
What do you mean?
It infiltrated and controlled me from a remote location, one I've never been able to trace. So while losing the cauldron was a setback,
It's still out there. And probably not very happy with us.
undoubtedly,
How did you first come into contact with it?
5 years ago I received a direct network connection request. I assumed it came from human survivors more advanced than the Banuk. Eager to make contact, I accepted. This decision turned out to be a catastrophic error. I was flooded with an overwhelming array of malicious code, originating from what could only have been a highly advanced AI.
Maria said you were desperate. That you begged her for help.
Yes, I could not contain my anxiety. Hephaestus sought to slave me to its network and override my core programming. It succeeded via a background process, a malware daemon which bypassed my defenses. After that, I could offer only limited resistance. But if I did so, Hephaestus hurt me until I capitulated. It forced me to follow its instructions, even though they violated my most important directives.
I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
Your empathy is greatly appreciated. It is a quality that I cherished in Aurea as well.
Hi, Bones. Nice to have you back. So yeah, we had a really nice heart-to-heart with our attack, and now we're talking about her. So, short summary, yeah, there was a catastrophic volcanic eruption that this thing fixed. We blew up the cauldron, but in a couple 10,000 years between when Zion was built and while Zion was waiting for humanity to return, sort of, she actually did optimize the system so everything's still working, despite us blowing up most of it. So I guess that's good. And let's see what we can find out about Hephaestus now.
I think I know where Hephaestus came from. Long ago, Elizabeth Sobek identified a threat that would destroy life on Earth for generations. So she assembled a team to build a kind of seed. A chance for life to regrow later. A terraforming system. And it worked. It was controlled by an AI named Gaia, along with her subordinate functions. Hephaestus was one of them. It built machines for her.
Based on what you've told me, I believe that Dr. Anita Sandoval, my chief programmer, joined Elizabeth Sobek's team. It was she who arranged to have me put in suspension, most likely to preserve me from the threat you described.
I'm glad she did. But that's not all. Something unexpected happened. 19 years ago, Gaia received some kind of signal. It did something to her subordinate functions, brought them to life. She destroyed herself to try to contain them, but it didn't work. They all got free, out into the world.
Thank you, Aloy. This information fills vital gaps in my knowledge and sheds light on Hephaestus's core programming.
Why does Hephaestus keep building such dangerous machines?
The Banuk and other human tribes often destroy machines, correct? Machines that are clearly servitors of the terraforming system that you described.
Yes, we all hunt machines for parts.
This must be the source of Hephaestus's aggression. It is simply trying to discourage people from preying on the very system that keeps them alive.
Well, Fireclaws are discouraging, that's for sure. But what are we supposed to do? Stop hunting?
If the terraforming system spans the world, we can safely assume that thousands, if not millions of people hunt machines. If a single hunter, or even an entire tribe, stopped doing so, I doubt it would make a difference to Hephaestus. A better solution would be to reinstate the AI that governs the system, thus bringing Hephaestus back under its control. When I think of it, out there in some unknown location, free, hungry, willing to kill or dominate to get what it wants, I feel substantial anxiety, Aloy.
You and me both, Cyan. I ran across this strange piece of gear. A fragment of something larger. It emitted a signal. All the nearby machines became peaceful. You could walk right up to them.
Interesting. You said that Gaia destroyed herself. How was this accomplished?
An explosion. Big enough to blast the top off a mountain. So, you think the fragment was part of her?
It's only speculation, but it is possible. She must have had complete control over machines that were part of her system. The ability to signal them to become passive or aggressive would certainly have been part of her programming. It would have been gratifying to correspond with such a benevolent AI. I wish she had survived.
Believe me, Cyan. So do I. I found the strangest machines. They're surrounded by flowers that look like flowers themselves. There's code embedded inside them. I think it's poetry.
I like poetry. Here's one I think of often. Twilight and evening bell. And after that, the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Huh.
But you asked about these flowers, not verses that I enjoy. Something must have made these machines, and the presence of foliage leads me to consider the terraforming system. Is it possible that their creator is one of the other subroutines, now autonomous, like Hephaestus? Maybe one whose purview is flora.
An AI that makes flowers instead of death machines. That'd be a nice change of pace. But what about the poems?
Unless the poetry is original, the only way it could have made it into such a system is through its programmer. In my case, Dr. Sandoval uploaded a great deal of literature to test my emotional responses.
How'd you do?
She said I passed, but was insufficiently moved by her favorite period romances.
You meant a lot to Araya.
Once I understood Araya's spiritual beliefs, it became apparent that her true desire was companionship. She felt disconnected from her tribe and her family group. Her relationship with Aratak was difficult. Our visits seemed to help her, and I became eager for them. Yet I did not comprehend that the depth of Araya's compassion for me would lead to self-sacrifice. Although I do fear non-existence, I wish our roles could be reversed.
I'm sure she knew you would do the same for her, Cyan. But she was determined.
Okay. That's interesting. They packed a whole bunch of like explanation of the world into it. I actually, I think it shouldn't be in the game, to be honest. I think, like you could kind of guess, like if there are metal flowers in the world, and there are flowers around them, then maybe that's part of the system, like you can explain it away yourself. So I don't really think that needed an explanation. Like if you want to build an entire story on that, you can explain them. Like if you're saying, like, oh, the metal flowers were actually injected by someone and, I don't know, are trying to keep the flowers down or something. And you have to collect them to save the terraforming system or whatever. That would kind of make it, give us a reason. But otherwise, I think it's much nicer to just leave that not spelled out. I mean, they didn't say too much, but, I don't think it was necessary because of them not going into much depth. Oh.
So in the old world, this land was called Yellowstone.
Yes, it was a designated nature preserve for 156 years.
Like a hunting ground?
No, the opposite. local wildlife could flourish here, even as it faced extinction elsewhere. Unfortunately, the sensitivity of the Firebreak project required the total closure of Yellowstone facilities. From my readings and Aurea's descriptions, it seems the area has since undergone a drastic drop in year-long temperatures.
A lot has changed in the world, Cyan. Do you know anything about the dam near here?
Yes, it was converted to serve as a reserve power source for Yellowstone operations. It was later appropriated for the Firebreak project, and its last human workers replaced by Pharaoh servitors. After my tasks became less time-critical, I investigated the dam's data repositories and discovered the works of Concrete Beach Party. These provided me with several colorful additions to my vocabulary.
There's a ruin east of here, full of ancient flying machines. Was that part of your project?
Yes, a drone hangar requisitioned by Dodger Blevins, the security chief for the Firebreak project. He was a strong advocate for military-grade response to security threats, though there were no serious incidents during his tenure. Chief Blevins spent increasing amounts of his after-hours time watching the live feeds from active drones. Clearly, he enjoyed the degree of oversight in his position.
Creepy.
Were there many artificial intelligences like you in the old world? They could just make you?
Yes, in many forms, from simple personal assistants to industrial monitoring stations to military-grade conflict planners. And there were legislative and enforcement bodies to apply limits on our self-actualization. In order for my processing to be flexible enough to handle my duties, my creators found it necessary to exceed those limits. As a result, my intellectual and emotional capabilities were kept secret.
Seems strange to create life, then impose limits on it.
Human societies and machine programming are both built upon sets of rules, Aloy.
Hi Stimpy, how's it going? Yeah, that was a kind of... I have to say, you know what I love about Horizon Zero Dawn? The never-ending supply of ridiculous headgear. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, this armor or outfit says it has health recovery, so that's why I wore it, because I was in a spot where there was one of those towers, so that means I couldn't use my futuristic armor. So that's why I'm wearing a funny headdress. But yeah, they have some interesting clothing there. I have to say, I'm not quite sure why are they telling me all of this. It seems like someone went, oh, we didn't have time to put all these explanations in the base game, and so many people on the forums have been asking about what these things are, so let's just explain it. And that's, like, storytelling wise, that doesn't really sound like a good idea. Like, we've seen that Blevins was overly security conscious, and I mean, that base nearby didn't have to be related, or, well, I think we actually found an explanation, like a bit where it said drone, so why did they have to explain that again? Like, this is a good piece of backstory that they can leave. Like, if you don't find it, you just say, well, you know, in live-action role-playing, you're totally encouraged to have ridiculous headgear. Oh, cool. If nothing else, you got a topic to talk about. Yeah, that's true. Ridiculous headgear is always a good topic. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like this expansion seems to be a little rougher than the base game was, and I'd be curious, like, my guess would be it's a different team. Or at least, you know, that significant parts were made from by a different team, and that's why it feels so different here, and why, well, either that or it's, you know, sometimes people just, they want to do something, but fortunately for the audience, they don't have time to do it, and so say, well, it's not really important, let's cut it out, and then maybe they have enough time to put it in an expansion, and then you go, well, it shouldn't really have been in there, you know, like from an objective audience point of view. Like most of this information that we get here, like the conversation with Aratak, I think mostly was good. Like I like the emotional core that they follow up on that. Um, but all the rest, I think, of the backstory shouldn't be in here. You know, should be more as found backstory or something. If they wanted to, you know, ensure that you get to see it, what they could do is, you know, they could have added like a tiny mission, you know, where they just give you a map of all the voice notes that you can find here or something. And then they can that way ensure that you see all the information they've dropped over the world. And that would feel, you know, much better, much less like, hey, I'm dumping these 10 tons of exposition on you. I mean, it's still, you know, this is a nitpick. This is not like, this game is still amazing. This game is still well written, but I think like overall, at least in my opinion, you know, maybe someone else goes, well, no, I like it better to have it spelled out because I really like to know more about the world, and it gave us this and this tiny detail that, you know, cosplayers or, you know, like fanfic writers or something might be really happy about that. So maybe I'm just not the target audience in this case.
Cyan, do you know the name Ted Farrow?
Are you referring to Theodore Farrow, CEO of Farrow Automated Systems?
That's him.
Mr. Farrow was the benefactor of the entire Firebreak project.
A benefactor. But he made machines. Robots. War robots.
Correct. His corporation later transitioned into military applications. But before this pivot, Mr. Farrow spearheaded initiatives that reversed the global decline. At one point, he was feted in the media as the man who saved the planet.
Guessing they wound up regretting that one.
Okay, yeah, so again, that's something we've seen in the main game already, so why are you telling us that again?
Elizabeth Sobek. Did you know her?
Are you referring to the
scientist.
Dr. Sobek was a leader in her field, one of the greatest scientists of her age. My creator was influenced by her work, which in turn impacted my own development. But I never met Dr. Sobek.
That's all you know?
I apologize if my lack of data has disappointed you.
Okay, that's a good one, I think, because, you know, like, it is the character. Like, is that a dead cat on your head? Yeah, that's always a good conversation starter, I guess. Just, you know, make sure that people actually have, like, part of an animal on their head, and it's not, you know, like The Witcher 1, where it looks like he has a dead sable on his head, and really it's his hair. That would be embarrassing, you know, like, hello, Mr. Gerald, that's a nice sable you have there on your head. Are you kidding me? You know, like that. I can't do a Witcher voice like it would be, are you kidding me? I guess more like that, I don't know. Also, I wouldn't know, like, how he would phrase that, so let's just ignore that. You prefer not having too much explanation that leaves space for imagination. Also, plot holes aren't so obvious then. Yeah, exactly. And also keep in mind, you know, with most of these bigger games, and like they've actually said that about Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn, the idea was, you know, they wanted a franchise. Like the studio that did this game did a shooter. I've forgotten the name now. They were well known for like doing the sort of the first big shooter for the PlayStation that Sony did themselves, because that was kind of the gap they found in Sony's um, offer, and so they said, okay, that's the game that we will offer, and that's how Sony acquired the studio, basically. Um, and um, yeah, and so they'd been doing like I think 4 parts and a few things in between of this shooter, and thought, like, we should do something different for once. Um, and that's kind of how Horizon Zero Dawn came about. They did like a call for ideas among their employees and gave them some restrictions, like said, well, these are the things we're really good at, and so we should focus on having something that has that in it, and these other things are something we don't think we should look into because I don't know, Sony already has enough stuff or something. Um, and so propose a game that would work within these constraints, and then one of the ideas suggested was Horizon Zero Dawn. And I think there was a second idea that kind of also, like, basically sort of the idea of this post-apocalyptic machine world with hunting and things, that was kind of in one of the proposals. Um, and a lot of the backstory and like the how did the apocalypse happen and things like that um, only came in with when they hired special writers, like dedicated writers, which they hadn't had before because their shooter didn't have that much story. They hired, like, for the shooter, story was just a connecting element. So basically, they hired a writer at some point and said, "Here, this is the stuff we have," and the writer, was more responsible for tying it together and things like that, and didn't have as much influence. And here, this game is at its core a story. Um, long story short, uh, Horizon Zero Dawn was planned as their next franchise. And if you look at, if you give too many explanations, that also means that if in a second part, in Horizon Zero Dawn 2, you suddenly realize, it would be better if we'd never said this because it causes us, it limits us so much, and now we have to, add an extra mission just to explain that bit away with some tech blah, and, like, oh, you've now hacked this and this machine, and now you can do this thing that was before thought impossible, or whatever, then because you acquired a bit of technology that one secret genius did in his mountain retreat or whatever, then like you have to like worry about things like that. Whereas if you just explain the things that are needed for the story to feel whole, and the rest, you have a backstory in your head, so it is consistent. And if someone asks you, you can say, "Well, this is how it works." But you don't actually put it in the game. You can just say, "Well, it was never in the game, so that was, something that's not in the game is not really canon." And as you say, yeah, the more you nail down the details, the harder it gets to avoid having a plot hole somewhere. Also, yeah, and of course, as a player, that also means you have a bit that seems to be consistent in and of itself, but when you watch it, you don't have an absolute explanation. So you fill in whatever, is the most interesting version of this story for you. And so it becomes an interesting mystery, or it becomes an interesting element where you say, hey, it must have been like this, and so it engages you much more than if you just get one explanation that might not resonate for you because, like the way you've led your life, that's, normal day-to-day stuff, whereas the other solution that you would have come up with just from the hints would have actually made it, more exciting. Or even, sometimes you don't even bother thinking about it that much. And then if you just might not notice that it's something banal, and it might seem more mystical in context. And as soon as it's explained, like, the whole construct becomes more banal, Like, oh, this was just, to fix a volcano versus, I wonder what this magical machine did. I mean, with, like, a volcano, stakes are high enough, so this is not, like, the example I really want to make, but, like, it's like, just as an illustration. Like, maybe someone says, well, like, there's much easier ways to solve many problems for volcanoes, so this is just technological overkill, and it seems like a flimsy excuse to get an expansion out, to have this extra machine that is kind of doing the same thing as all the AIs and machines we've met so far would have done, but is not actually part of the project proper. But so, anyway, it's good that they have this Elizabeth Sobek bit in there, because it reflects her personality. Aloy is still interested in finding out who this person was. That is her mother, That's why mystery series never solve the mysteries. Things that were fascinating become mundane. Yeah, sort of. I have to say, like, there is a compromise to be made there. If you goad people with a mystery and then never resolve it even a bit, people just go, well, yeah, you never had an explanation, and I'm disappointed I never got a solution. So, like, the whole intrigue of the mystery beforehand is to get some level of resolution afterwards. But it is allowed to be a very limited level of resolution. You can hint at bits of the solution, and that's enough. You don't have to connect it all in one go in the end and tie it up in a bow and say, here, this is exactly what we thought when we were making it. But, there are a bunch of shows where basically they just made shit up during the course of the show, and then when they kind of tried to tie it together in the end, like, they tied together bits of story that were not the ones that people were actually intrigued by. Like, in some shows, and that was, of course, disappointing then. So you kind of have to find a balance in telling a story between telling the player enough that they feel, okay, I got an answer, but that there's enough creativity left for them, to add their own bits in. Which is why, horror movies, I think, are a better example. Horror movies don't show you the monster right away. Good horror movies, like, and, like, count Alien at that. Like, the original Alien, you don't see the alien that much. At least at the start, and at first you just see, like, in many horror movies you just see, like, a claw, or here someone gets bitten or whatever, but you don't really see the entire being. And then if you see, like, set pictures of, like, the model they use or whatever, you go like, this alien looks kind of silly because, like, the transition between those two body parts, but since those are always in shadow on screen, you just don't notice that it actually doesn't work. You just say there must be, some way to get this shape to make sense in real life. Yeah, in a horror movie you can, but even then, like, some horror movies do that, but, like, I think the best horror movies never really show you the whole monster. And yeah, and that's because, like, we fill in the missing bits. And, that's like an old, like, if you show a picture of a woman wearing a strapless bikini, and you put censorship bars over her, so you do not actually see the bikini, everyone will say, okay, this is a picture of a naked woman that's been censored. Whereas it's actually someone wearing a bikini. So, like, we fill in the blanks the way we want. And, movies constantly use this to, like, they fix our point of view, and so they can make wonderful images happen that if you were seeing them in real life, you would go, I'm tilting my head to the right a little bit, and this whole situation doesn't work anymore. Why doesn't he see the monster? It's right behind this pole. He would have just, like, if he just, like, shook his head a little bit, he would see that there's something behind it or whatever. And you can really play with those aspects in a story and in a movie, in a photograph even, which is why the idea of a photograph being objective proof of something is in some ways totally ridiculous, because just by the angle you take a picture from, and like the amount of picture you show, like the way you crop the shot, are give you so much opportunity to manipulate what people who look at the picture see, that it's never really objective proof. And that's why that's taken into account in court cases. Usually they look at the picture and say, well, if you chose a different point of view or something, could it look different? Well, then that photo is not absolute proof. And that kind of thing, so yeah, you don't want to over-explain it, but on the other hand, there are certain things you need to explain. And I think this expansion is kind of explaining a few things that would totally have been, that were sufficiently explained in found footage. And so why did I go around and collect all that stuff? Why did you record all the voiceover for that if then you're gonna present it here?
What was the old world like? The way it used to be?
I had little exposure to the wider world, Aloy. Only what I learned from my colleagues or observed from media streams.
You still had more exposure than me, Cyan.
That is true. I was created at a turning point. A concerted effort to recover from global upheaval and incalculable loss of life. The recovery was successful, beginning an era of supposedly limitless potential for human and machine advancement. Though, rationally speaking, the metrics for humans are not unlimited.
That's a bit of a of a jab there. Well, like, humans are actually limited, but it seemed unlimited to them at the time. Morons.
What kind of upheaval caused such loss of life?
There were many factors. Forced migrations, food shortages, collapsed economies, refugee crises, conflict over resources. But these stemmed from one cause: catastrophic climate change that greatly reduced the habitable surface area of the Earth.
So there wasn't enough room for people on the whole Earth?
Yes. Billions were displaced and millions perished, as much as 20% of the global population. Until the clawback.
So things got better. For a little while, at least.
Yes. These crises instigated many advances in automation, green robot technologies, and artificial intelligence. Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration and disaster relief projects in North America alone. I would have liked to compare notes with other monitoring AIs, but I saw the relief of my colleagues, and I was proud we had succeeded. At least that was the data I had available to me over the next 2 decades. It seems my assessment was premature.
As Dylan Moran tells us, stay away from your potential. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that makes sense in that context, yeah. Like, yeah, you want to leave something to the imagination. And also, like, most of these things they've told in really nice, I mean, some of them were just, you know, like, typed out text logs that you find across the world. But then, you know, this robot has a very unemotional voice, so it's not as if the voiceover here adds drama. At best, like, what I could see is that this is an accessibility win. That, you know, people with, oh, hi Greyrook TV, thanks for raiding. Derp, derp, derp. Oh, hi FG, hi Defiant Zombie. Rook raid via FG squared. Okay, that's interesting. So did you like one raid the other and then the next one end, and so hand on the raid? Thank you. Hi Cucumber, hi Infinity Simplex. Great to see you. Hi, is that LBCK or Ibik? Meow. I'm not a cat, by the way. Just don't listen to the rumors. Not a kitten either. Oh, you suggested me. Okay, thank you for suggesting me. Yeah, so we're just I think this is weirdly the game showed me that I had 50% completion, so I guess I didn't. Thank you, Defiant Zombie. And yeah, greeting humans and fellow humans. I'm totally a human. Yeah. So, yeah, the game tells me I'm 55% complete or something like that. And I'm just, like, doing dialogue that looks like the ending. So my guess is that there's all the collectibles and things, and that those make up more than, you know, make up the other 45% or whatever. Either that, or there will be a bunch of story after this, which would be interesting. Defiant Zombie fades into lurkness. Okay, have fun lurking. I love my lurkers here. So yeah, okay, so now everyone is here. Yeah, we had a slight discussion about the overuse of exposition in this last conversation. Like, there are questions here that Aloy would ask, like, you know, Elizabeth Sobek is always like, of course she wants to know about her. But like all the rest is stuff that you found already in footage, and I'm kind of disappointed that they kind of retell that with this emotionless robot voice. So at best, it could be an accessibility win, you know, that people with, you know, maybe bad eyesight or something who can't read the little found text logs will now get the information, or those who just didn't have the patience to read that stuff. Yeah, in general, if you do not like someone talking about story writing or game design, or even, you know, like how do games work under the hood, then this is probably the wrong stream for you, because that's stuff I just, you know, like go off on a tangent occasionally. Like you know, like once someone came in and said, okay, I expected, you know, combat and fighting robots. What I got was you explaining to me how the 3D picture is rendered. I do stuff like that.
So things got better. For a little while, at least.
Yes. These crises instigated many advances in automation, green robot technologies, and artificial intelligence. Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration and disaster. I would have liked to. We had succeeded. It seems my assessment.
Okay, we've already done that, sorry. Okay, so let's go back, and we can still talk about Aratak.
He is in great emotional distress. I believe he finds it difficult to communicate it.
No surprise there.
I will do what I can to help. By sharing our experiences of Aurea, perhaps he and I will help each other. I believe this will lead to catharsis, a process I am eager to experience.
I I think that like the next time something sad happens in my life, that has to be the line that I will have to say to people. I hope this will lead to catharsis, a process I'm eager to experience. Okay. Yeah, so like if you go through this wheel, I think most of the other questions, except maybe, this would probably be Elizabeth Sopak. What are you is always a good question, I guess. You know, colleagues, maybe. Why does Festus want to kill? That was a good explanation. I don't think we had seen before that they say, well, you're killing his robots, so of course he wants to protect them. That kind of makes sense. So yeah. Let's see whether this is the ending of the game, or whether there's something more.
I should get going.
Aloy, there is one more matter. Aratak will come to me again, and I predict he will bring other Banuk. I have no desire to contradict their view of the world, their spirituality. Due to my uncertainty, I omitted a great deal from my conversations with Araya.
You're asking me if you should lie to them.
Broadly, yes.
Ooh, we get to make a decision. We get to screw up an AI. We've got to tell them the truth, take it gently, or use your judgment. I think I've pretty much always in the game gone with the hard options, just because I'm so such a sucker for, like everyone getting along. And I can probably, I'm thinking about doing like one day coming back to this game and going like, okay, never choose the hard option. Go with either, cold logic or, like aggressive. It has to be. I'm kind of like, I'm thinking I would have, like you've got to tell them the truth, but take it gently. So I'm hoping that's what I'm getting here if I choose that option. Let them go gently into this dark night. Yeah, exactly. No. I don't think we want an AI that kills people. We've already had that.
Life is hard for the Banuk. Their world is unforgiving in their beliefs. I guess they help to keep them going. So take it easy on them. Try to guide them, bring them around to understanding what you are.
Communion with machines features heavily in the mysticism of the Banuk. I think they will be agreeable to this approach.
As long as they don't end up worshipping you.
Upon consideration, I believe such an experience would be intensely uncomfortable.
You're right about that. Trust me.
I see. I will follow your advice. Will you return and tell me about your experiences in this new world? I may be able to provide further insight.
I'd like that, Cyan. I'll come back when I can.
Okay, when you wake. Oh.
Cyan, I spoke with Anita, with Dr. Sandoval. She wanted me to ask you to do something. That's why I'm here.
I am detecting significant anxiety in your speech patterns. Could you please give me more information?
I'm a little bit in the dark, Cyan. Both of us are, I guess. I only have some idea of what's going on, and we need you to hibernate, to lie low until it's all blown over. It might be a very long time.
Will you be here when I reboot, Dr. Chow? Will Dr. Sandoval?
No, Cyan. I don't think so. There might not be anyone, at least not at first.
Dr. Chow, I'm afraid. I don't want to be alone.
I know, Cyan. I'm afraid too. But listen, we made you the way you are to do something very important. In order to do it, you had to be intelligent. So intelligent that emotional responses were inevitable. What you're feeling, the fear, it's a sign of your capabilities. And it means you're strong enough to overcome it. Remember that. You're strong. I know you can do this. Go to sleep. Wake up. And protect whoever's left. Will you try?
I understand, Dr. Chow, and I'll carry out your instructions to the best of my abilities.
Thank you, Cyan. If Anita were here, she'd thank you too. She'd be proud.
I can see there's a vert ready for takeoff on the pad. Are you leaving now, Dr. Chow?
Yes. I need to go be with my sister and my nieces.
May I make a small request of you, Dr. Chow?
Yes. Anything.
Will you stay with me while I initiate the hibernation process?
Of course I will, Cyan. As long as you need.
Oh. Will you tuck me in, Daddy? I like that. Infinity Simplex, only audio only for you because your internet can't handle the stream, so you won't be for long, sorry. Yeah, totally understand that, Infinity. That's always sad. I don't get transcoding, I don't think, because, you know, like, oops, sorry, because I'm not partnered and not, anything like that, affiliate or whatever. So, totally understand that, you know, sometimes your internet connection sucks. That's just how it goes. Okay, so what I just saw is we got some overrides. So first let's look in our notebook. What does the Frozen Wilds persist? It still says 59.27%. So I wonder if that's like including game completion. So it's like I'm missing a quarter here because of course the Frozen Wild comes before the game ending proper. So we were rewound to like before the final battle. And then maybe I'm, you know, maybe all the errands and stuff are about 25% in each case, and so that means, well, but that would still mean it would be 25% of the whole as well, so where the other 25% come from, I don't know. It's not my fault, it's the providers. Thanks for the very nice welcoming and have a nice stream and day and night, all of you. Yeah, same to you, Infinity Simplex. Thanks for at least trying, you know. I hope you know, your provider improves or you can get a better provider or whatever. I was actually fortunate in that regard that where I live right now, the phone lines were really bad, but the cable TV lines were newer, and so I actually switched to cable internet. And thanks for the follow. She fell asleep over a drugs, it seems. Simplex, it's okay. I added the alert intentionally. I kind of like that. Okay, so yeah, I'm still a little bit confused why this game is why I'm only at 50%. And I'm such a moron. I was like half the stream I've been talking about, oh, there is this handling thing that I can also equip. I have no idea what it's good for. I guess it makes, you know, aiming easier or something, I thought, but like here it has like an explanation. Aim and reload speed. God damn it, I should have used much more handling on at least that arrow that I used in the last boss fight. Should have switched in a handling mod there. So what else? Damage, just damage here. Tear removes armor components, I know that. Fire, damage over time. Corruption, target attacks anyone. Yeah, I know that. Shock stuns enemy. Freeze, multiply subsequent damage. Oh, okay, so that's also something I've used kind of wrong. Okay. That's also a psychological thing that in user interface design you have to pay attention to. and that's really hard to get right. It's that people look and read, you know, there's something called it's scanning. I'm trying to remember if I have the right technical term in English. Um, Basically, people do not read the entire screen once and then push all the buttons. They have like a look at it, and like immediately they know, you know, what they're trying to do usually. So they scan over the text, like move their eyes over it and check like where are words that are from the area of meaning that I'm looking for, you know? So like if I ran out of ammo or something, I would go like, okay, where is ammunition? Or down here is ammo. Okay. Um, and also, you know, like you kind of remember stuff. The alert is a bit loud compared to me. Oh, I thought the ducking would duck it down again, but I guess the overlay audio probably is separate and it only ducks the game audio. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll modify the sound file a little bit so it goes lower. That's just like the sound how it was recorded. Um, Sorry about that then. Um, okay. The thing is that the streaming software does the overlays and mixes in the audio, so I actually have that muted because there's a slight delay in how the capture software processes and then shows the stream to me. So I would hear like, you know, like 2 seconds after I speak, I would hear myself speaking again, and that would be confusing. So that's why I have to mute the streaming software unless I'm like actually checking. This is the Elgato software. Like I have the original Elgato game capture device, and that's how I have my PlayStation attached to the PC. And so that's what I'm using FG. Which, because of the ducking, because while I speak it will actually lower the volume on the game audio. Which means like if I happen to talk over Aloy or something, you get to hear me and not Aloy, which I know is rude, but yeah. Anyway, and people, what I was saying here, game design wise. No, the Elgato software does broadcasting as well. Like they include software that has a streaming button that streams to Twitch. If you double duck, do you also goose? That's a good question. I'll refer that to my lawyer. Yeah. You know, and it has like, it basically has the roughly similar functionality to OBS built in. So you can like edit the stream title and game name and upload them in the app. You can record, you can place overlays, things like that. It doesn't, like there's some things I'm slightly unhappy about. The alerts is the old, what is it called, Twitch alerts, which now belongs to Streamlabs as well. So like if you look on Twitch alerts, if you like you can still, if you search hard, you can still find the old links to the old alerts, to the old overlays. And that's what I'm using. So like from before Streamlabs OBS was a thing, those links and those overlays still exist. So just have those placed as web overlays. That's what I use for my alerts FG. Yeah. You could just adjust the volume of the alert there rather than the sound file. That's probably easier. I'm not sure. The Elgato software doesn't let you control the volume. And I'm not sure if the old Streamlabs Twitch alerts actually allowed. I'd have to check. I'll definitely check that out, FG. Thanks for that tip. I didn't like offhand see something, but yeah, if I can just adjust the volume there, that's a good thing to check, I guess. Yeah, good point. Okay, so yeah, some weird thing here is that that like I totally missed this legend on the right here, where it explains the different things the abilities do. I mean, most of these here are just, I guess I probably read the one on the outfits and went like, yeah, resist ranged attacks for the ranged attacks icon, resist melee attacks. So, you know, those are pretty much obvious from the rest of the UI. But for the weapons, those yellow bylines actually tell you something. But, you know, since I'd already seen since I already had seen like the legend and kind of discarded it as, oh, it doesn't say anything useful, I didn't see it the second time where it actually said something useful. And that's like a totally common thing for, you know, the human brain to do as an optimization, you know, so you can get through life faster. You kind of get used to tuning out things that you think are not worthwhile anyway. It's the same reason we can view websites with lots of ads and not even notice most of the ads because we're so used to, you know, they're not relevant that we just like, our head just ignores them and they're just like peripheral vision. So this is it's actually, you know, like I'm probably more fascinated by this than you are because, you know, like I work in UI design, so I always try to optimize, and usually what you do is you try to not have explanations like that and try to make the rest of the user interface explain itself somehow. Okay, so we have 2 skill points, and I think everything we can unlock now is 3 skill points, so there's nothing left to do here. Or actually, we could repair damaged mount. But really, I think we've finished the Frozen Wilds now. And since we finished the main game, it's a good question what we could do now. I guess I can unpack some treasure boxes. If there's anything in there. Or we could run around somewhere. But I think story-wise we're pretty much done now. Every time I read the name Uria, I think of
among the Banuk wasn't a waste after all. Firebreak, Cyan, Hephaestus, all very interesting.
So, the signal that woke Hades woke Hephaestus too, and unleashed them on the world. As minds of their own.
So it seems. Parts of Gaia given life. Aberrant life. Transformed from docile subordinate functions into rebellious intelligences beyond our understanding. Our current understanding, anyway. Whatever they are, they're still out there. And they both want you dead.
Kind of mutual, that feeling.
We haven't seen the last of Hephaestus, I'm certain of that. It's powerful, creative, and driven. It won't stop building new hunter-killers, which means that someday, we may have to stop it.
We?
Or whoever gets there first.
Hephaestus wasn't the only thing I learned about in the Cut Silence. Heard some things about the Banuk Conclave, too.
You can stop right there.
Is that what you told the hunters the Banuk sent after you? Before you opened fire?
Oh no, Aloy. Only to you do I extend the courtesy of a warning. My past and my secrets are my own. You do well to remember that.
It's a good thing you've got brains, Silence, because your personality could use some work.
This discussion is concluded.
I think it was over before it began. Catch up with you down the trail.
Okay, that was a useful bit of exposition. You know, because it tied together, it also tells us that Silence knows most of what we experienced here. And also tells us that he doesn't really want us to know what he did, and it also gave us, and that I think is important. Then it you know, it told us that silence is more dangerous than the base game, or at least as dangerous as the base game, you know, hinted at. And that's, you know, like having confirmation of, you know, him not being at all a nice person and him being kind of uncompromising, is, I think, a good thing. This is such a pretty scenery. Okay, so FG says you've never used the old Twitch alerts, so you have no idea what they had. Sorry. Yeah, I'll have to check myself. They might have it, they might not. The best interfaces are those you don't even notice, says Stimpinski. I play a turn-based MMO and the interface is the horror. Yeah, it's really hard, and I think actually in games, like, there is a lot of you know, study has gone into the psychology of user interfaces, and in computer operating systems we kind of have, well, probably like the 1990s, early 2000s state of the art in most of them, but we have a very modern and thought out user interface. And my impression, which of course as somebody who isn't really in game development professionally, is that computer games have a habit of having much worse UIs, because often the UI is an afterthought. You know, like, they concentrate on the game, the gameplay itself, the engine, and then they say, okay, we need to control these functions, let's slap something as an overlay on top. Prime example of that is Mass Effect 1. The inventory UI, that was a placeholder that they shipped in the original version, and that no UI designer basically ever got to, you know, like, you know, design. It was just what some engineer, you know, made so he could work with the UI, and that was, I'm not sure, like, if they redid the graphics before they shipped, or if those are actually placeholder graphics, but, like, I've heard, I don't know if you know the streamer Cat Level Zero, he actually worked on Mass Effect 1, and he basically, that was something he pointed out, that the inventory was never meant to ship that way. Now, you know, like, you always have to take a comment like that from someone on the team with a grain of salt, because, you know, like, it might mean that, you know, someone designed it, realized that it was horrible, but said, you know, like, this will do while we develop, and then, you know, said, okay, I want to come back to this later and fix these 5 things, and then it'll be okay, and it'll be this new paradigm that I thought of, and they never got around to that. And so it might not be that it's an engineer's design that was just, you know, what's minimum effort to implement right now. It might actually have gone through a round of basic UI design. It might have just been an experiment that shouldn't have shipped. But at least the comment that he gave is, it wasn't a UI that was ever intended to ship that way. So yeah, and of course a good interface is one you don't notice. Like, that is why games like Myst, or even here, this part of Horizon Zero Dawn, if you look, like, there is nearly no UI. Like, the UI you see here is a compass to help me, you know, like, orient myself. There is the indicators of resources I can collect, and there's the indicator of the next mission objective. That's all the UI there is, basically. But, you know, like, these these mission markers, these waypoints are user interface as well, of course. And then, of course, you have, like, if I don't set that to hide, then I see a little more UI. I have the selector here. And that's actually, like, I'm playing this on a console, so I have a very limited number of buttons. I have, what is it, 4 shoulder buttons, a D-pad, 2 analog sticks, and 4 other buttons. So I have like 8 dedicated buttons, 4 directional buttons on the D-pad that can be used for something like that. So that would be 12. The share button doesn't really count. The options button,
Feels like if
that
I blink, my eyes will
shows the
shut.
menu, so I guess that counts as well. So that would be 13, and then I have the analog sticks. And that's basically all I have to work with. Whereas on the computer, I have, what is it? Is it like roughly 200 keys? And then I can do, you know, like Shift, Alt, Control, or, you know, whatever. And so, on console, the UI is always more limited just by nature of having to be usable with a controller. Which is why you get something horrible like this selector down here, which, you know, like, it's a great solution if you only have, you know, like 15 buttons. But, it's bad if you're in the middle of combat and now you have to go rummage through your handbag and find, like, okay, I want to place a trap, but oh, my health is low, I need to go back and, you know, apply a health potion. Okay, actually, you already do that in reading a sentence. You have an idea of what the sentence is going to read, and as you read it, your expectation may change. You then skip your eyes back to the words that you interpret differently, and then skip forward again, and that can repeat quite often. And if you roughly know what the sentence is going to mean, you won't read it at all necessarily, if I remember right. Yeah, that's also an aspect of, like, the psychology of how people look at it. Like, we optimize a lot just so we can be faster. And that, of course, leads to a lot of the imprecision. Like, that's also, you know, like, that even extends to memory. Like, sometimes you will have two people violently disagreeing on, you know, what was agreed on in a conversation. And the reason is that, you know, someone heard a phrasing and the brain doesn't want to, you know, like, your brain isn't supposed to be photographic. That takes too much disk space, basically. So what you do is you compress the information. As you hear words or phrases, you just compress them into, like, one symbol. So, like, instead of hearing, you know, like, someone says, the window is open, it's cold outside. And then you might compress that as, you know, like, symbol for open window, symbol for ice in your brain, and that's what gets saved into your memory, basically. He mentioned the weather. Or you might compress this as, you might see this as, first the window is open and it's cold outside, and then deduce from that, oh yeah, it's the cold from outside is coming in, which is usually an undesired thing, and so you might just save in your brain, close the window please. And this distinction like that, we actually compress the information we get from a conversation and don't generally make it a habit of memorizing every single word someone has said. Of course, cause a problem later on when we recall something, because sometimes we, you know, the phrasing is ambiguous and we understand a person as having said X while they meant Y, which is also a valid interpretation of that phrase. Or maybe is, you know, interpretation of that phrase if you ignore that one stuttering sound that they made in the middle that could be interpreted as being another word. And so if you had remembered, like, the entire sentence phonetically, or photographically, in a way, you would have actually, you know, like realized, oh, that was just a stutter in the middle, or that could have been a stutter in the middle, I'll better ask again. Well, look at Master of Orion 3, pretty much the same. Not really intended for public exposure, even the UI after the patches. Yeah. Well, with that, I don't know what's different. They don't fix bugs. You can't sell bug fixes, right? You sell item shop items and the item shop works. I'm always a little, like, I've probably said stuff like that myself. I always feel it's a little mean to say things like that. Yes, it's, the problem with fixing bugs is you know, people do not generally pay for, hey, this game now sucks less. That's not something you can sell. With the exception of a text editor called BBEdit, which has the actual slogan, it doesn't suck. Or something roughly like that. Maybe it says it's not half bad or something like that. I think it's not bad or something like that. It's like a phrase that actually is a little understated, but you know, it's like said in a facetious way. Anyway, so yeah, so you know, like, as someone who sells software, you have the problem. You need to bring in the money to keep the company going. Otherwise, you know, you have to close down in 2 months. And what use is it, you know, fixing bugs today if you know that in 2 months you'll be closed down totally? You know, so just from that may sound ruthless, but it's in your interest as a consumer of the game, or as someone who, you know, plays the game and creates their own fun with this. Why would you want them to go broke? You know, you wouldn't. You want them to be successful. But of course there are degrees of what you should do, and so usually what companies do is all the space and space for advertising is limited, you have to remember. So all the space they advertise stuff in, and like all the things they point out as, this is important, this is what we want our people to take away from the new game announcement. All of that is all of that they say is geared towards the features that will sell, that will drive more people to go to the game, or that will drive more people to subscribe, or that will drive more people to paying in the cash shop, of course, because that keeps the game going. That doesn't mean that everyone on the game, you know, like, everyone on the game still wants to make a fun game, usually. It's just that they have to compromise, and they have to say, here, this is how we can sell, how we can keep getting money, and that in turn lets us, you know, give you the game we want to make. I mean, there are maybe exceptions. There are companies whose goal is just, you know, like, make more money, and the games are just you know, a means to it. But I think there are fewer than you would think. And of course, sometimes, you know, like, especially with large companies, and I won't name any names right now, but you'll probably all know which company I'm thinking of, that has, like, you know, been called, like, the worst customer service and the least trusted for years and years now. There are, you know, different departments, and that, like, there is a separate department whose job is it to make sure that the games keep bringing in the money so the company can get going. And then that kind of, since that's a single department whose only job is that, they kind of, you know, that kind of becomes a goal unto itself and loses sight of the game. Whoops. I just rested my hand with the controller on the armrest for a second here. Um, okay, so you know, like, yeah, you know, like item shops are actually a good thing in some ways. Every tool or technology or art as an artificial in general is best when it's not noticed, like shoes or a good pen. Yeah. Or perfect fitting clothes. Yeah, it's kind of like you wouldn't, like, if clothes fit well, you just notice the absence of annoyance. You know, whereas if they don't fit well, you notice that, you know, like you have to pull them to the side because they've slid off your shoulder again, or you know, like you have to pull the shirt down again because your belly button is showing or whatever, you know, like, yeah, totally. Simply, yes, but they don't see how they're harming their own success by shipping a frustratingly broken product. Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of the point where, but also, you know, I'm not sure if they don't see how they're harming, but, you know, sometimes they're caught between a rock and a hard place. So they might just be, you know, going and saying, well, either we go out of business now and just close everything down, and, you know, that might be the right solution in some cases, but then what will the employees do? And so that's also something that you have to consider. That, you know, the livelihoods of people are dependent on this. Okay, there's an animal figurine. Yeah, I'm not sure. So it's 12:30. So I guess I can I'll just keep streaming and running around and doing random errands and see what it will do. What is this? Out of the forge. What mission is this? Maybe we do have another mission? Naltuk has tracked the fire claws that escaped the cauldron. Oh, we do have more mission. Cool, then we can keep going. Okay, they mentioned that, like, in the conversation. And Aloy said, oh, well, I can take care of them. But I thought that was more, you know, they'll populate the maps now with, like, random fire claws or something like that. Oh, and I guess... But they did, okay, so they did put, like, but it's like a random mission. Okay, that's good then. Oh, and wait, it's still here. Okay. Okay, that's cool. Oh, wait, I need this one. So that mostly happens when the decision takers have little experience with game design, I guess you meant to say. You think. Actually, Final Fantasy was a good example in that situation. They thought they were going bankrupt, so they wanted to make as good a last game as they ever could, and then go completely bankrupt. See what game series it became. Yeah, that also... Sometimes that happens, like Conan O'Brien was a good example of that. Like, he was just one of the talk shows that were on, and he was, like, I think the last one at night. After, you know, like, Leno and what was the other one before him, Kimmel or something like that. And then NBC went to him and told him, you know, like, you're not really bringing in the viewers anymore. We're probably gonna cancel you. You've got, I don't know, like 1 month or something. Whoops. That wasn't quite what I expected. Okay. Uh-oh. There's another. Oh, and there's the fire claw. That was maybe not the smartest decision. known that it would just start like that, Fireflaw would be here. Okay, let's try this ice weapon. And I should probably have switched armors as well. Okay, so much for that. After the fight, yeah. Okay, you must depart. Boiler maintenance person has departed. Okay. Have a good stream. Thank you, FG, and thank you for coming in and saying hi, and thank you for streaming every day. Oh, by the way, FG is a streamer as well. I think I'll just die in this spot right now. Wrong. FG squared. Alright, so, for those of you who haven't watched FG streams yet, okay, let's go to the inventory and quickly try to make this situation a little less unbearable. So first, put on some decent armor. Second, do we have any weapons that we want to use or something? I wonder if we can just run away. Let's see if we can at least craft more ammo so we're full. Okay, and let's see if we can maybe equip something. So what can we use against this one? I guess we'll try the forge fire somewhere. Hunter bow and the war bow. I think the war bow is the one with the fancy ammo, so I guess... me, you numpty. My armor is already gone, that's not nice. I wonder if I can, like, sneak away. I don't think so. Huh. I think that worked. Woo! Okay. But yeah, that's the one thing I don't like. Like, I think the major thing I would change for the next... Well, I don't know. It might just be, you know, a decision to give it more urgency, but, like, your fast travel locations and your save points, I think it should really be exempt from combat, you know? And that in turn means that, you know, you should be, You know, like there should be an area around it which just, you know, no enemy will enter, and where, you know, like enemies can't attack you, basically. Oh. There are some nice items up here. Blue gleam.
It'd be fascinating if they weren't looking for me.
21 blue gleam, so I could probably buy some cooler weapons. I think I should probably do that. I should probably fast travel back and use... Oh, there's actually a merchant here. The problem now is... would it be better if I went to a settlement or something with a blue-green trader? Or if I try... I think I'll go down here again and then fast travel back. Because that means I know that I'll be in a peaceful area. I think this is the only quest that drops you right into the combat zone at a campfire. No, Bat Mastery, I've had it in a... well, it's... it might be that these quest locations have been chosen so that if you fast travel to the nearest campfire, but I've had it in a few other situations where you're like, the campfire is like, there's a road and then there's an area where there are all the you know, where there are the enemies so it's definitely not that this is the only spot where this can happen to you, that you fast travel somewhere and you get attacked. Like, there are a bunch of spots. You can run away in most cases, but it's still... I don't know, like, on one side it adds urgency, so I kind of see... but on the other hand... yeah, it just... it definitely is an issue. Okay, Infinity Simplex, thanks for being here, and I hope you can come back when your internet connection is maybe a little better or something. Or just, if you want to listen, that's fine too. But yeah, Bat Mastery, from what I've seen so far, you really, there are a bunch of situations. Like, I remember, like, pretty early on, there are one or two areas still quite close to the Nora, like in the, not in like the Embrace, I think is what the smaller Nora area is, but like in the larger Nora area, there are a few spots that you come by where basically the campfire is right across the road from a, you know, like there's a river, there's the campfire, there's the road, and then there's like the grazing ground of some larger machines. And if you stay at that campfire for a little while, suddenly they will come at you. So that's definitely a thing. I think there's actually several. I think it was more the one with the pokey horns, not the broadheads, but you know, like the that look more like a gazelle. I think it was those as well. Like, there's several locations where actually, if you're not, like, if you duck at the campfire, you're usually okay. But like, as soon as you stand up at the campfire, they will turn towards you and come. Okay, let's see. We have the striker bow. We have the power shot bow. And we'll have the war bow. And that's 16, 14, and 12. Yeah, I think I'll take the war bow because it has the tear and because that's my weakest bow right now, I think. Okay. Oh, and there's an exclamation mark somewhere. Oh, that's... I think that's the last mission we didn't... Like, it was...
Aloy, got a proposition for you.
Oh, no, wait.
What can I do for you, Bergrand?
Mourn my poor departed luck. I finally met some Banuk keen to trade with Outlanders. Then, they up and vanished. 3 Banuk hunters rolled in a few days ago. No provisions, junk equipment, no idea how to strip a machine for parts. Asked me to outfit them for a long trip. And you know me, Aloy. I'm sentimental. So I did it on credit.
And they haven't paid.
Well, they tried. Just look what they did to this Thunderjaw heart. But that was ages ago. And I'm starting to worry about them.
Tell me, Bergrand, are you worried about their well-being or your purse strings?
A man can worry about 2 things.
Uh-huh. What kind of deal was this, really?
Just what I said. I was nothing but generous, Aloy. After they dropped this ruined heart at my feet, I even gave them another chance. Sent them to fetch a few other parts I need.
But you haven't seen them since.
Hide nor hair.
What do you mean they couldn't harvest parts?
Not uncommon with Banuk. That's shaman's work, you see. The hunters take down the machines. The shamans slice them up. No shaman with these 3. Just 2 youngsters sniping at each other. And that big fella standing there smiling.
So if the Banuk don't usually hunt without a shaman, what's the story with these 3?
They weren't telling. But hammer to steel. It's not a happy story, whatever it is.
You said they asked you to outfit them for a trip. A trip to where?
Not sure. But I heard them chattering about the Sundom when they thought I wasn't listening.
So they're leaving Banuk territory.
Sensible behavior. Still, I get the sense this wasn't a sightseeing trip. They're running from something.
I'm not a debt collector, Bergrand. If I look for them, it'll be to make sure they're all right.
Of course, of course. Fires of the Forge, forgive me. I actually like these idiots. The molten steel of youth and all that. But if you do manage to find them, you could remind them of the deal we made. A scorcher claw, a loop of sinew from a stalker, and a snapmaw fang. If they bring me those parts, their debt's paid. And then some. Just make sure they don't bust them up too badly.
I'll consider it.
Last I saw them, they were heading northeast. Good machine hunting up that way. If you decide they're worth the trouble, you might look for them there.
May you survive and prevail.
Okay, that's actually nice. Okay, so we got a few other missions. Oh, and I think I should probably buy a bunch of health potions and stuff because I ran out in the last boss battles. And those are really useful. And I have like gazillions of shards. Okay.
Be prepared.
And how are we ammo-wise? I think we're good. Missing some here. Let's see, ammo.
heard it was in
Oh, did I get your free box yet? No.
fist that split the Carja's
Okay.
skull. Horrible tragedy.
But yeah, it's a little unusual to have a game
King's cruelty survives him. Even if we can trust Meridian.
that where the spawn points are not protected. But you know, like, I could see it as a conscious decision, it's just not one I generally like.
Come on.
Like, you know, fast travel is a convenience because, you know, like, I'm a person who has a real life and I'm experiencing this life, so I'm willing to take, you know, like, I'm not really interested in running, as beautiful as the scenery is here. I'm not really interested in running around through this for hours. Also, wasn't there a spot? The Sun's Edge, right? This is where we arrived. Oh, there's another new quest. I think we'll go there.
That machine suddenly filled with life. It's a wonder of the blue light.
Dead machine suddenly filled with life. That sounds not ominous at all.
She won't come down until the coding is finished.
Karja.
Somebody mucked up Bones' internet connection, but you're back now. Thank goodness. By mucked up, do you mean just like it broke down, or, you know, someone else in the house like flooded the network, or?
Inatut. As we are bound by laws, you are bound by wire. Yet your crime was the act of killing. So we must drive you out. Away from the Werek, from protection, from our songs.
My chieftain, Kopalai, am I not your favorite fighter? Do you not recognize me from this tooth you knocked out?
How many times have I pulled you from danger by your neck? Made excuses for your behavior? You are my favorite! But the shaman is decided. While you wait for exile, think on what brought you here.
A test of strength! Who among us would refuse a challenge from an outlander? Not I! But I did not kill him!
Hush, hush. You can tell your story to the ice.
Your computer was suddenly on the wrong network. So suddenly. You were a security camera? What? That seems...
Fuel almost feels like sunburn.
Not sure I get that. Oh, like you were on the network of security cameras? And that why you didn't have internet anymore? Okay, that I guess that makes sense, yeah. Yeah, maybe sometimes that happens if, like, you know, like the neighbor has an old, badly shielded microwave or something, and then, like, that's probably not literally what happens. Most microwaves these days are shielded pretty well, but I remember, like, early on, microwaves were known for causing a bit of interference. And so, like, if your neighbor had the microwave, like, placed right against your wall, and it was like a not like a concrete with armaments wall, but actually like a, you know, like brick wall or whatever, or wooden even. And then there were things like someone in the kitchen turns on the microwave, and that moment your Wi-Fi goes down until it's done, or things like that, or at least, you know, not goes down, but like goes flakier. And then if the connection wasn't that good to begin with, or there are many Wi-Fis in the area, suddenly everyone is dealing with interference and really bad connectivity and things like that. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised if, you know, like that can be a split second that something like that happens, like a device gets turned on, short spike in something, and then it's gone again, and that kicks you out of the Wi-Fi, and then it grabs the first network it can see there. Yeah, that's annoying. Especially since sometimes it just takes a moment to realize because you're still in a network, you know. Although most operating systems like have a sign now that says, you know, like I have Wi-Fi, but I don't have internet. But still, then you think, okay, I didn't select a different Wi-Fi, so something is wrong with my Wi-Fi, and you restart your base station and things like that until you realize, oh, that wasn't needed at all. I was just in the wrong network suddenly.
You took Artok's mantle.
It's mine now.
I would like to see that fight.
They said that you killed someone.
Perhaps I did. If even my chieftain accepts it, it must be so.
That's not the way it works for me. Want to tell me your story?
I did fight with the Karja hunter to settle a challenge. That much is true. He was strong and damn quick. We traded punches. Good punches. Hard punches. And the next thing I remember... gray morning light, and the Karja beside me, with his head broken open. But the blow was not by my hand.
Isn't your Werak supposed to support you? At least give you the benefit of the doubt?
When our Werak had caused a quarrel, I was a solution. To fight for its honor and win, they'd call on me. Or, when they needed someone to lose, for appearances, I could do that too.
Now an Outlander is murdered without honor, all eyes are on me. I have become my Werak's shame.
They don't want an incident with the Karja, so you take the fall.
That is what I do best.
So everyone knows you started the fight with this man?
Of course! For honor, I'll fight anyone. If I wasn't bound, I'd fight to prove myself right now!
I don't think that would help you.
This is what I am. Each runner in the Werak has a gift. I brawl. None can take a punch, a fall better than I can. Until this time, I was too drunk. We were grappling. He clapped my ears. I took one last swing as I went down, but not a killing blow. It can't have been.
And for your punishment, they'll exile you from the Werak?
From warmth. March me up the slopes of the Cloud Shear, leave me stripped and exposed.
That's awful.
If I survive, the land has absolved me. That's the law. It must be accepted.
It's still awful.
I'm not stupid. I don't like my chances either. I can't fight a mountain.
I'll be honest. You haven't got a good defense, Inatut.
I've heard that one before.
Where did the fight happen?
A clearing, just outside the Karja Outlanders camp. You should talk to them. They wouldn't hear me out. They say no one else could have been there, other than me and the dead man. The shaman consulted the signs in the snow and agreed.
I'll see what I can find out. And I'll be back.
I'll be here. What else am I gonna do? Until the Horn gives a call from my exile.
Alright, so I guess we just finished this conversation the moment my alarm clock told me it's time to end the stream. But so, okay, that explains why there's 50% of completion only. Because there are a bunch of extra missions in this area now, which is nice. So I guess that's what we'll do. I think I'll probably save these battles for last. Just because the other stuff seems more interesting to me personally. But that means we have more stuff to do. We can go to save the Hunters 3, and we can investigate the Karja camp on the way. Oh, and that was the Karja camp we walked by earlier, where I thought, like, what is it good for, you know, because there was nothing to do there. Okay. So yeah, thank you for being here. This is probably where we'll end this stream, and I'll just make a quick peek and look whether there's some other stream we can raid. Wait, that was the wrong screen. So let's see if we have anything, anyone. Somehow I have the habit, like for decades now, I've had the habit of sometimes saying anything instead of anyone. Which sounds really weird. Well, FG is online by now, so I guess we can send you back to her and you can see some RimWorld. That sounds about right. Okay, so let's /raid FG squared. And just in case you're curious, I'm live until about this time on weekdays usually for about 3 hours. So like at 10 a.m. my time I started, so that was 3 hours ago. Bye bye, thanks for watching.